Welcome back, everyone. So today we have Qwigs playing the Lich. This is a Crusader 1 game on US West servers. We're going to take a look at his supporting, see if he could have done anything differently to change this outcome. Radiant won by adhere, 58 to 55, 48 minutes. It looks like, at a glance, Qwigs played fairly well. 6-9, 27, so he's minimizing his deaths. It was actually the Bristleback and the Lone Druid who maxed out the deaths on his team. But maybe, still, he could have done something to have helped keep them alive, or maybe reinforce this Luna even more. Let's take a look. So just like last game, we're going to apply our game knowledge here, take a look at the drafts, and see if we can make any predictions. Versus Pudge, versus Nyx, you know that there's going to be a lot of ganking, a lot of movement around the map, good observer placements, investing in sentries, investing in dusts. That's going to be crucial this game. Because I want to buy extra sentries, probably more than normal, I can't afford any careless deaths. I want all of my gold to go into those resources, those items. Medusa obviously provides their team with some nice late game, so they can make space, and then Medusa can carry them late. However, the Dire draft is also very capable. Spirit Breaker provides a lot of the similar ganking. Luna and Lone Druid, they can scale quite well. Bristleback can be a real pest in the mid game, so I would say these are two very even drafts. Speaking of predictions, having the Bear running in, having Bristleback running in, these are two great targets for my Frost Shield, so I might want to consider maxing that maybe second. I might do Frost Blast and then Frost Shield. It depends on how the lanes go, it depends on how people start playing, but I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind because there's going to be a lot of engagements with these melee heroes. Also, when it comes to items, Troll Warlord, before BKB, he's countered by Eul Scepter, sends him up in the air. Pudge, if he happens to ulti anyone, like the Bristle or the Spirit Breaker, you can send him up into the air with the Euls. Force Staff is great for saving a target from Nyx Assassin. And of course, Glimmer Cape is never a bad item just for letting a hero get away. Maybe in these lower brackets, players aren't so good at trying to escape themselves, but Force or Euls I'm definitely going to have in mind, and Glimmer Cape as a maybe. All right, and one more thing before we get going here. So you've got your Observer. I'm not sure why you're holding it right now, where you're thinking of placing it. You also have this extra gold in your bank. If you want to buy the Magic Wand, I'm not sure why you don't just take the stick right now. Seeing whatever combination of offlane heroes they have, it's not like there's going to be the most stick charges if Pudge is the offlaner, but if his support is Ringmaster with dagger spam, you can get your charges that way. If it's Nyx Assassin, well, it depends on what build he does, but he could use a lot of Mind Flares. That's going to give you some good stick charges. I just think if you're thinking of buying the item, you may as well have it, and in the event of any early skirmish, at least you're going to start getting charges already. Otherwise, you may as well come to lane, maybe instead of an Iron Branch, or instead of having the Mango in your inventory right now, you could have a Circlet. You could have any number of things, 2 mangoes even, so you could be more spammy. I just always question when people don't come to lane fully equipped or as equipped as they could be. I feel like supports, carries, offlaners, they could always find some combination of items that spends their gold a little more efficiently. And really, the only player who needs to save for gold is a traditional mid laner who's saving up for a bottle. So your team is posturing a little bit, preparing for 2 runes. Against this Pudge hook at level 1, I would probably want to get this Observer down. You're there, you're guarding the top rune with your Luna, that's fine. But you could just do a little more if you were to head out and place this Observer right now. And so you can actually see by Pudge's mana, he threw a hook. Bristleback obviously dodged it. A little level 1 engagement. And you guys are outnumbered here, but Bristle is already putting in some good work. Luna joins in, that was pretty nice. So good job to you guys that you ended up getting a couple of these kills. Again, I would have just placed that Observer to start the game. And where is the other Observer? Not sure. Okay, you guys are still mid. That was an overextension on Bristle's part. I'll say this was fine for you since you got a D-ward. Luna, as long as she manages the creep waves nicely, which it looks like she is, it's okay that you're not there with her right now. Okay, so your first Observer of the game. If you're up against the Pudge, it's not going to be anywhere that he wants to stand to throw his hooks. It's also possibly in range of them putting a sentry down here when they block a camp, so it's likely to get dewarded. If you wanted to place this somewhere to help you in the lane, you could always place it here by the fountain to try to place something around the 3-minute mark. All right, not the end of the world though. Sometimes the observers aren't put to the best use, but they don't always impact the game that badly. Okay, good harass to start. You want to get this Nyx assassin out of the lane. Whoops. All right, so we know that it's Pudge in the off lane. So again, this is where if you had the observer, maybe over here by the fountain, it would also be a more likely path that the Pudge would sit in. Pudge is not going to come around here to throw hooks. Nyx assassin also is not going to come around here unless he's going to go for a courier kill, but it's highly unlikely that he's going to do that. All right, so because you now live a little bit in fear of the hook, you're already backing away from your Luna. You're not doing anything in this position. If you wanted to back away, you could have just backed away towards this cluster of trees over here, regenerated your HP, and then headed back out to do more auto attacks. You guys are 2 ranged heroes with strong spells versus 2 melee heroes. Be a constant presence in the lane and abuse that fact. This is also a lane where you guys are really going to benefit from half pulls or stacked camps and full pulls. You see that there's already an accumulation of melee creeps. Whoops. That's just unfortunate. Nice reaction though with the frost shield. That was good. And okay, already we can see that Luna has a little bit of a tendency to go in a little too far when there's some sort of skirmish happening. She walked into melee range with the Pudge there for no reason instead of maintaining her distance from him. Because of the hook, we've now lost a pull, but you can always get it back. So far, by no means is this game losing or the worst thing for your lane. All right, so what are we doing? We're clicking around in this area. We're not clicking on these melee heroes. Now you do with the Frost Blast. Good. You're kind of wandering around in between the creeps. And so you threw 1 Frost Blast and 1 auto attack, I think. This whole creep wave now is going to go to these heroes, and Pudge is probably guaranteed to get his level 2. You could have been here and done this pull and at least started to bring the creep wave back a little bit. Again, you're banking some gold. I'm guessing you want the boots, but you could actually get this Windlace to get that extra movement speed versus their heroes. And Luna, by the way, did a nice pull that you probably should have been making. You could just get the Windlace if you want that quick movement speed advantage, and you could be abusing it. Also, you've seen how effective your Frost Blasts are, so why not maybe get a couple more mangoes? If you're going to play Lich again, I would honestly consider 2, maybe even 3 mangoes for the lane. Maybe only 1 used for the level 1 Frost Blast, and use more mangoes as you get more points in this. The thing about Lich also is you might just want to be pulling the wave. Okay, let me pause it. I think you just want to pull the wave and then get back to the action in the lane, because you're going to benefit from all these creeps dying, and that's going to refill your mana, right? The other thing is, you still have, at all points of the lane, this 2 range versus 2 melee hero matchup. So sure, deny the creeps, but then get back into the action and just start kiting these heroes and dealing more auto attack damage. Luna, I'm not exactly sure what her positioning was to get her hooked, but this is unfortunate that this is happening now while there's easy last hits under the tower. So you got to get back in there. Pull, get back in there, get more mangoes, level up your Frost Blast, and keep on harassing. You two do so much damage though, don't you? Okay. Where are we going again? You're standing behind the creep wave. You are not taking an aggressive stance over here. I want to remind everybody of the 3 things that I talked about as advice for support players. Number 2, have early aggression and then be patient later. I keep on talking about this ranged matchup versus 2 melee heroes. You have to be aggressive. You have to exploit this. The full magic wand is fine, but get a few more items in your inventory so you can press your advantage. Bring more tangos, bring more mangoes, the windlace, just so you could have something a little bit earlier to press the advantage. Don't save up for these big expensive boots. Now, of course, if we click on your courier, we do see that the Tranquil Boot components are coming. The windlace is coming. I maybe would have just bought this as soon as I had the gold and ferried it out right away, not waited and saved up for the Ring of Regen and the Sentry as well. And actually, speaking of the Sentry that you just spent that 50 gold on, I'm not sure why you're buying it. Maybe you're thinking of blocking this camp over here, but it's not like they've blocked your camp. You could always use this to do a long pull as well. It's not necessary that you put the 50 gold into a Sentry. Maybe save up the extra 15 and again, get a mango. Also, because you have kill potential, a blood grenade. You want to be able to chase these heroes down. Luna has high movement speed. I think a blood grenade is a must. All right, what are you afraid of here? Or are you going to do a pull? If you were thinking of a pull, you could have done that before that creep wave died. And Luna, maybe you two have already communicated that she's going to be doing the pulls from this camp. I'm glad that she's doing this. So she's kind of managing her own lane right now. You just got to focus on doing as much damage to the enemies as you can. Again, the Sentry, I think you already knew that this camp was not blocked. So this was just a little mistake on your part. For some reason, it just didn't register that your camp was spawning, no problem. Also, if you had clicked on these heroes' inventories, I gotta click them, Pudge, an Observer, no sentries, Nyx Assassin, Sentry Observer, you can always just click on him again later in the lane and see if one of these goes down in count. All right. So I generally think that your positioning is too timid. You're giving far too much respect to these enemy heroes. Luna also, she's keeping her mana pool high, so she can always contribute with a Lucent Beam. Feel free to play up on these two heroes. What's the worst that happens? Maybe Nyx gets an Impale, and then Pudge starts walking on you with a Rot, but you have Frost Shield to get away from that. That was an opportunity there where you could have joined in on the denies. I think one more thing that you're maybe not contributing with is prioritizing denies. So if you're going to stand around this area, if there are no heroes that you can attack, hit your own creeps. Bring the creep wave back to this position over here, and then the lane just plays out so much easier. You have more kill potential, etc. Pudge hitting some nice hooks. This should be a kill. All right, so this was actually twofold. One, you didn't have the blood grenade. When I use my blood grenade, I try to replenish it, so I always have one in my inventory. Luna also, this level 1 Lucent Beam, now it's cost her a kill. So a little side lesson there for the carry players who are watching. When you have a carry with such strong abilities, Luna and her Lucent Beam, where's Medusa? Medusa and her Mystic Snakes, you may as well max those abilities for the laning phase. But for the supports, blood grenade, blood grenade, blood grenade. All right, and when a kill doesn't go well, and when you get into this situation where they're low HP, but you can't dive because they're at the tower, you've got to get a pull off. So this creep wave has now been missed. The next creep wave is going to be a little more complicated, but you're going to have basically a play that looks like making the pull here, and then repositioning the lane to bully the heroes out, and then also getting in position for the 6-minute Lotus, or if your lane is going really well and Luna can get the Lotus, you might be thinking about helping this Troll Warlord or the Lone Druid versus the Troll. Now, we've been watching from your player perspective. Oh, this ward, highly likely that it gets dewarded. Avoid everything on my screen right now when it comes to observers, because if you think about it, if you get into any kind of sentry battles, let me go free camera here. If you get into any kind of sentry battles in this area, the sentries are, a sentry to deward placed here or here covers everything on the left side of the screen. A sentry placed to deward or block your camp covers everything on the right side of the screen. So there are no good observer locations typically in this region. That's why earlier when I suggested an observer placement, I suggested here by the fountain. People don't spend sentries on this side of the map. Sometimes you could get a little cheeky with something in between here and here, but I also find that these get dewarded fairly often, especially against like invis heroes, right? They just sentry their own lane. Not that Nyx Assassin's going to have invis for a while, but just something to keep in mind. Maybe you're versus Bounty Hunter. Also avoid observers in this area. Let's see what kind of plays you make. And are you thinking of the Lotus? Are you thinking of a pull? Are you thinking of your lone druid? All right, good. You let her know you're going to pull. That's what we talked about. Oh, and you have an X here. So that was good. You were paying attention to your minimap, and you gave a cautionary ping when you saw the icon of that Ringmaster. So good job on that. I don't know if your Luna caught it, but I did. All right, so this is another play where you could have had a kill if you had just topped up your mana. Mangoes and blood grenades. Think about those two items and playing more aggressively with your spells. All right, and maybe in that situation you could have scrapped a little harder, thrown more auto attacks to try to deter them away from the Luna. I think she dies there, yes, because of her positioning, but also because of your lack of mana. Because you're not spending so much time in the creep wave, you're missing a lot of regeneration. Right now, actually, I know you see the Ringmaster, but you have mispositioned yourself so that you're not helping mid, you're not helping with the 6-minute power rune, and you're not getting the Lotus. Nyx Assassin is going to get the Lotus, Lone Druid goes on with his 1v1, but you are here just floundering in the top lane, not even hiding in the fog to maybe get some mana regen from these dying creeps. So a lot of this is kind of Lich specific. You do position in a way that gets you more mana regen from creeps dying, but also if you're a hero that's not Lich, you still benefit from the EXP of these creeps dying. So if I'm Rubik, I'm still wanting to stand around here and I'm trying to get my level 4 right now. All right, you're kind of chasing the Ringmaster. You want to get the kill. Fair enough. I hope you do get it. Lone Druid is asleep at the wheel. Good, you did get the kill. Maybe you get 2 here. It could be a second kill on the Lone Druid if you had some means for keeping your mana topped up. Anyways, not the end of the world. It's a little bit of a silly engagement. Lone Druid, I don't think, has an Orb of Venom on his bear either. And Spirit Breaker, also no Orb of Venom or the Blightstone. So you guys are just kind of lacking on catch, lacking on damage. Amazingly, with all of that going on, yet another minute has passed. You've gotten 1 kill in the minute. You haven't placed any new wards. You haven't stacked. You haven't checked on Luna to see what she's up to. But thankfully, the game is going decently for you guys. Not amazingly, but I'll say decently. I don't mind this play since you're here. You're getting a little bit of the EXP and the gold. To help you out with those last hits, you're perfectly safe under your tower. So just to make the last hitting a little bit easier, I advise you to go a little closer to those creeps, right? You lost that range creep because you were so far away, and the tower attacked faster than you could. We're at 7:30. You are planning on the Glimmer Cape right now. It's a fine item. I do like the idea of the Force Staff, getting some of these heroes out of the way of trouble, get somebody away from Troll Warlord as he's trying to kite, get somebody out of the Stone Gaze from the Medusa. Yes, Glimmer Cape does those things as well, but it's a little bit slower, right? It's not as much of a psychological disengage as the giant space created from the Force Staff. Still, I'm not going to say that Glimmer Cape is a bad item. By no means is it. I like Glimmer, I like Force, I like Yules. All right, you're back on the Nyx Assassin. In comes the big Pudge. You guys are afraid. He only has 1 hook, and now he's out of mana. All right, if you just click on his hero, you can check that for yourself. All right, he has a mango, but he's not level 6 yet. I know it's a little difficult to micro, but you would benefit from clicking around different heroes and different parts of the map. So now, what are we feeling as heroes start approaching their 6s? It's 8 minutes into the game, and laning phase is starting to feel like it's on its way out. Or we're verging on that mid game, and the game is starting to feel a little more dangerous, right? This is where, as Nyx Assassin approaches level 6, you want to consider getting a good observer up to start scouting movements. I think a fine one is somewhere here or here, just to help you see these heroes as they leave the lane. This cliff so early on usually is contested by enemy heroes, so I typically like this little pillar right here, maybe these stairs, but I do prefer these stairs because if someone's going to engage through the river, they're probably going to the rune or to the mid laner. Okay, so there's no pull happening to bring the creep wave back. Even though it's 8 minutes into the game and it seems a little bit late, it's really never too late to pull the creeps back and to try to keep the creep wave somewhere in this area. A general rule of thumb is using this line here before the fountain, or on the radiant side, this line here, this road towards the fountain. These basically mark the areas in the lane where if your creep wave on radiant is past this road, you definitely want to get a pull to bring it back. On Dire, if your creep wave is past this road over here, you want to do a pull and bring it back. Now Luna has her level 6 ultimate. You guys can use this and get a kill. Unfortunately, she did this level 1 Lucent Beam, so her Eclipse is not going to do as much damage as it could. But still, it's something to consider that she has a lot of burst damage. And you do have a point in Sinister Gaze now where you can hold a hero down for her Eclipse. Okay, you're warding. We've heard Spirit Breaker go off. That's another thing that hasn't happened too much this game. Spirit Breaker has tried to make a lot of moves on your side of the map. You've never once clicked on Spirit Breaker or seen what he's up to. So you never even considered, is there a play that I can make on the Twin Gate and maybe do something with Medusa? You know that she's going to be a threat later on in the game, so you could have had the idea, well, maybe I combine with my Bristleback, I combine with my offlane, and I try to shut her down. It's one thing to enable your carry. It's another thing if you can find an opportunity to shut down theirs. We're approaching 9 minutes. Yes, you're 1-0 and 2, but I think that there is a lot of potential for more impact. To sum it up so far, you could have had more impact in the lane with where you positioned and how much you were hitting these enemies and using your spells on them. A lot of that came back to your items or your lack of mangoes and your lack of a blood grenade. Knowing that Spirit Breaker was kind of playing with you guys, having that blood grenade would have helped him help you. So it's a two-way thing there where if you have a little bit of extra damage, a little bit of extra catch, his ganks are more effective as well. Also, I think there was a lack of pulls that would have benefited your lane. We saw a number of times that the creeps spilled down into this area where you basically have no easy way of harassing these heroes anymore. So Luna actually did a couple of pulls that helped you, but you could have been in charge of doing them back here or you doing them here as well. Also, the lack of Lotus plays and the lack of rune contest. So if anyone looks at your score, they see 1-0 and 2, and they're not going to accuse you of feeding or griefing or anything like that, but there's a lot of possible play styles that you could have adopted to have been even more effective. All right, you're de-warding while there's a little skirmish happening. That's okay that you didn't recognize that Pudge was around the corner. In this instance, just run a straight line away from him. You don't need to get too fancy with the jukes. Nice of your team, though, to still be in the area and to get this kill with you. Wonderful. So that worked out great. If we take a look at the net worths, who is on top of the board? Luna and Bristle. So you guys are in a fantastic position here.
Radiant's top tower has looked better. Dire Snow fortified their structures.
All right, Luna sees something happening, and I swung my camera over there, right? You're not paying attention to what's going on to the left of you.
Tower.
So a little bit more camera control, a little bit more map awareness, to see if you can involve yourself. I'm not sure if it stems from the lack of map awareness and that's it, it's its own problem causing its own symptom, or if it's a mindset that you have, that you're not in an aggressive mindset. You're not playing to this hero's potential, or really to any support's potential. It doesn't matter too much which support you have right now. Lich is viewed as a very defensive support, but he has some nasty offensive tools, as long as you have the mana to use these abilities. So take a look around and take a look and see where can you get involved more aggressively. Wonderful. That was good. Very nice. You know, Spirit Breaker was the one who facilitated that, but I'm glad that you joined in right away. So I think I have spoken plenty about the laning phase. We're going to start looking a little faster now and see what else was happening in this game. Spirit Breaker, I would actually like to see him get his level 6 at this point and not only keep on charging and staying out of the lane. That's something you two have in common, I guess, is so much time spent away from laning creeps. You're just not getting mana back anyway, if you're not by creeps dying. You have your Frost Blast. Are you going to think of a way that you can use this? Or are you thinking, I'll just keep on protecting my carry and maybe she'll carry me in the late game? What do you want to do? What do you see as the most impactful thing that you can do? I don't think doing a pull at this point in the game is it. So you got one creep kill. You're not seeing what's happening bottom. Pudge is TPing away. You haven't actually clicked and seen what's going on down here. You haven't seen why the Bristleback appeared on your scoreboard. You haven't seen where Pudge was TPing to. Very limited camera movements. That's a good ward. So now you're getting ready for this Nyx Assassin. Maybe against Nyx though, what you want to start doing is when you place an observer in these high traffic areas, I'm calling the river high traffic, you might want to put a sentry down as well, because he's probably moving through Vendetta. And so you could have your sentry right up there too, or you can have the sentry on the cliff. Doesn't make a big difference. And speaking of Nyx Assassin, as we play the replay again, where is he right now? You're making this move with Lone Druid. There's no tower here, but that doesn't mean that they can't have a hero waiting here. So this is a little bit of a blind play. Yes, you have the sentry available to put it down as a reaction, but against Nyx Assassin, you want to be putting these down before he makes a move. You want to try to catch him off guard, not the other way around. All right, what is your Bristleback up to? What's your Luna up to? Now you check. She probably said she was getting gone on a little too late. So even if this doesn't go well, and it doesn't look like it is, they at least gave you some good information there. You've seen that these guys want to make a play on your carry. You can, later on, if it's safe, and if this tower stays up, we'll see what happens. I would already have the idea in mind that I should probably start to ward for my Luna. She wants to stay up here. She wants to farm here. I should probably put a ward that sees some TPs, or that sees some movements in the lane. So somewhere here, or here by these stairs, just to get her a little bit of vision over here. And again, combine it with a sentry in case Nyx is the one who's coming through. This is if you want to play defensively, or this is if you want to take care of your Luna. It's disregarding the fact that you can still make plays on this offlane tower with your Bristleback. You have a lot of options. Here we are back to your player perspective. All right, so you bring the creep wave back. That's fine with where the creeps were. But what is your goal? What's the reason for you doing this right now? You haven't moved in a way that's, on a warding mission. You could easily just kind of TP to this tower, or while you were here, you could have placed that ward that I was talking about. You could be, again, doing something in the off lane. Medusa must be laughing right now because no one's really cared about her too much in the off lane. Spirit Breaker has actually been seen more often up here than anything. So what are you doing? You're just kind of staying away from this Pudge in a very reactionary way. Oh, but there's a hook. That's information. You were here. He should have had no way of seeing you. So either it's a lane ward, highly unlikely, or it's a ward somewhere on the high ground. So whatever happens after this skirmish, you should have de-warding this area on your mind. I don't mind you trying to help out your ally there to try to get the kill. Okay, now what's going on the map? You're pinging that hero as if you want to chase. Luna has no interest, and Bristleback is currently engaged in something completely separate from you guys. Around now, you can still back off and go do your D ward. Chain Frost. He carapaced. There are creeps nearby. Chain Frost. If he starts running away with a Vendetta, you have the sentry, you could put it down. So that was a kill. Maybe you're just not recognizing the power of Lich's spells, but that was definitely a kill. And because of whatever was happening there with the Spirit Breaker and with the Nyx Assassin, you have now forgotten that Pudge hooked you with no vision. Or he hooked you, but it was with this vision. So you've forgotten that this is here and for you to deward. That dewarding aside, the map is very dark right now. So I think because of this darkness, this kind of encouraged Luna to move down here. It's going to work out for the best because she is going to be able to hit this tower and knock it down. But you've got to do something with the wards that are sitting in your inventory. Okay, you're not paying attention. Lone Druid got hunted down mid. All right. So your last minute of indecision and of not covering the right areas has led to Lone Druid dying, you getting pushed back a little bit too far, and you ultimately dying. If the enemies saw that their ward over here was destroyed, they might not have the confidence to move this far into your side of the jungle. I'm really curious what you're going to be thinking when you respawn. Look at where your cores are. Do you want to play with your cores? Do you want to enable them where they currently are? Okay, Spirit Breaker makes a play. You're probably thinking about getting involved in this right now, which is not a bad thought. All right, so you're going to go back to some dewarding, I guess. Now you're farming. If you wanted your team to feel a little bit safer, you could have TP'd to the mid tower, come down here, just planted a nice general ward that sees a little bit of rune coverage and covers 2 entrances to your side of the map. I know you haven't really seen Nyx Assassin in this area. It doesn't mean he's not going to do that anytime soon. So you at least could have knocked off this side of the map. If you know that there are no heroes coming to this side of the map, because you have the vision, it gives you more information about how to play over here. No heroes seen over here, perhaps play more defensively or more as a unit on this side. So this is unfortunate. They placed their observer after you placed your sentry, and the sentry obviously doesn't see this unless you have some new high ground vision. There's really no way you can know about this unless your courier happens to fly over the cliff right now. Everybody, or almost everybody, would make the assumption that because I have a sentry here, there's no way they have an observer here. This is just unfortunate timing, but they get away with it. Okay, good. We're pushing. And you guys are immediately backing off. They have 2 heroes dead tier 1. Sometimes when I destroy an enemy tower, I think of immediately flipping the vision to our benefit. So whereas this was previously occupied by their tower and they had vision, sometimes what I do is I put my observer down right here and I say, okay, well now this lane and this path, this is ours. As opposed to the neighboring cliff that often gets contested. And again, they're still going to run heroes through here, right? They could still run the Pudge, the Nyx Assassin, their gankers. So it's not a bad place to put your observer. Yeah, I really would like a ward over here, and I would like a little more priority and some time given to stacking these Ancients. You have a lot of heroes who would benefit from that being done, not only this camp, but also this camp. So one thing you should incorporate in your gameplay, more stacks. Don't forget that when you stack and your allies kill the camps, you also get more gold and you get more EXP. So your Glimmer Cape is completed, and this little scouting mission serves you no purpose. Their heroes have not been showing except for the Ringmaster. It is very likely that Ringmaster is just being a little bit silly and he's exploring this area on foot just for fun, just to put wards down. But the more likely scenario is there's some heroes behind him. So, not surprised at all that you died right there. Now Spirit Breaker gets into a bad fight. Lone Druid is still fighting it. And if you haven't recognized it already, hopefully you can tell by now that your 1 and your 3 have very little interest in team play. This Luna, I mean, I guess she thinks like she's the best player on Earth and she's just going to carry her way to victory. It would be beneficial to you to recognize the types of play styles that your cores have, so you know when to back off, when not to move too aggressively, etc. Because this Luna is such an AFK farmer, again, she would really benefit from the Ancients. Let's see here. Do you put a Frost Shield on the tower? No, you put it on Bristle. Okay, that's not the end of the world. That's not that bad, but you could have saved this tower a little bit of HP by putting the Frost Shield on it. Now, the difference is, maybe because you put Frost Shield on Bristle, you actually get these 2 kills. So that's worth more tower damage, sure. And then when the troll ulti was finally down, you guys didn't go for the kill. That's okay. I don't know. I feel like with what that outcome is, obviously hindsight is 20/20. I still like the idea of putting the Frost Shield on the tower. I don't really trust this Bristle to make too many good plays. So you are doing a lot of low impact moves right now, I'll call them. You're not paying attention to what your team is doing. Can you help the fact that the Spirit Breaker is charging out of control and getting himself killed? Yes and no. If he at least has more vision to work with in more critical areas, he could maybe play a little bit smarter. It's unlikely, but he could, right? There's no reason not to have more vision for the benefit of you and your team. You got a lot of wards in the shop right now, and I just feel like it's been too many minutes of this map looking like this, and that is primarily on you. Usually I wouldn't mind supports or anybody trying to get farm wherever they could, but there are other jobs right now that are simply a higher priority, and vision is the number 1. So we can tell that it is unfortunately going to be a very passive game. We have late game Medusa versus late game Luna. I would shift my focus to doing ancient stacks, trying to get her further ahead faster, and this Aeon disc, I wouldn't really bother with it. You know, it's a fairly easy game to navigate because you could just stay in the fog a lot. Their Nyx Assassin actually isn't ganking as much as I thought he would, maybe because he's just kind of counter-ganking the Spirit Breaker. But you don't need the survivability. Still having the Force Staff or still having the Ewels to save your cores who are going into the engagements for you, that's more beneficial. One thing I will compliment you on is over here, for example, I'm already seeing that you're able to maintain your distance from your core. You're able to stay in the back line. So this Aeon disc, Nyx hasn't jumped you yet. There's no need for you to start building this now. In fact, if you had to do anything, if you had this already purchased, you could still flip this for a Rod of Atos. So a very defensive ward. You know, the game is actually not as scary as you think it is at this point. Their heroes, their Pudge and their Nyx Assassin, again, they haven't shown enough to me that they're worthy of this much respect. That you can't find a way, even if it's a solo smoke, right? Get a little creative if it means establishing a little bit better vision. Avoid confrontations, but you should still fight for more map control. You should be fighting for at least 50% map control. All right? So don't let them bully you into this being the best wards that you can get out. I've seen enough in the replay now where I've recognized that you can safely move out on the map, avoid enemy heroes, and establish those deeper observers. We're not talking about anything on their side of the map. It's very clear that you guys are not going to take the initiative and play as the more aggressive team, but you can still secure more farm for your cores. So now, I understand how you might be feeling. This is your vision. They were just spotted over here. You lost 2 more cores. Ooh, now it's a little bit of a scary game. Now I'm sure psychologically you're thinking more that this Aeon disc is going to be necessary. Pudge, Nyx Assassin, even the Medusa and the Troll Warlord walking down the lane, they feel more oppressive than they actually are. I think what you need to do, if you're not going to be doing the map objectives that I've talked about, warding, stacking, you need to find a core and kind of go with a 2-man buddy system with them. I think that you should probably stick to Lone Druid or Bristleback. Bristleback is a little more of the fighter, but the bear is also very capable with a Frost Shield. There's obviously no point in you tagging up with the Spirit Breaker. He's going to come to you. So take your pick of one of these 2 cores. Stay with them a little bit more often. See if you can get any counter kills, but just don't sacrifice yourself to get them out of a play. Maintain your distance, use your Glimmer Cape, and then run away. Another thing that's really telling about your thought process and your mindset in this game is you've never bought a dust. So if you are going to be making the engagements happen against this Nyx Assassin, you're going to have a dust, not just sentries, because you want to be able to stay on him. You want to be able to track him down until you finish that kill. So this Aeon Disc, I know I've already talked about Yule Scepter, Rod of Atos, Force Staff. It could also be a shard. It could be a shard plus dust, and you could be throwing off your Chain Frost and actually getting a lot of solo kills, or again, with this Lone Druid, with this Bristleback, Spirit Breaker, seeing that you guys are fighting, you can make far more happen with your Chain Frost and your Frost Blast. So I would say there's just a lack of aggressive mindset. There's a lack of you realizing Lich's potential as an offensive hero. I actually do mind that you're playing this defensively, because it's also been defensive but without a purpose. It's been defensive but not thinking about some overarching game plan, not thinking about maximizing gold through the stacks, not thinking about squaring off more of the map with some observer wards as borders. It's also not been defensive in the more traditional way, where you at least stick to a high value hero on your team and you just play as their bodyguard. So there's been a little too much drifting, as I would say. You've been playing like a drifter, a little bit too much like a spectator or a passenger, just watching things happen in the game. You're not forcing any kind of your impact. And if, for everybody listening, if you know how to play and you have some skills, I want you to try to make plays happen. If they don't work out, if you go a little bit too far, if you pushed your limits a little bit too much, fine. At least you have that lesson for next time. But when you never even try to make things happen, how are you going to know? Right? The only reason why I know that Lich can make a lot of plays happen with his Chain Frost and his Frost Blast is because I've gone for them before. Or maybe I've watched pro players do it with Lich before. It's a little bit also going back to the game knowledge issue, where you just don't fully realize that Lich is capable of far more. So either you have to learn from somebody else, or you have to experiment and try it for yourself. I know, easier said than done. It's a ranked game. MMR is on the line. It seems like it's such a dangerous game with Pudge and Nyx Assassin, and your cores aren't playing that well. Then maybe go try Lich in a normal game. Maybe any support hero that you want to add to your roster. Try it in a normal game. Who cares about winning and losing? See what the hero's capabilities are if you play with an offensive and aggressive mindset. Play for kills. See how much you can get away with. Okay, what do we have going on over here? Kind of initiated by Spirit Breaker. Chain Frost on the one target is unfortunate. You haven't used your Frost Shield, and you're not in a position nor thinking about, would anybody need the Glimmer Cape? And think of it this way. If you are preparing to use Glimmer Cape on somebody else, you're not going to have a save for yourself. So you have to be positioned to get yourself out of danger just with simply good positioning. Ooh, they're getting some really nice spells. Still though, not that bad. Luna and Bristleback are chunking them. I mean, look at that. You guys have a nasty fight. You have really good spells and really good heroes. Still, by the way, a very dark map. We just saw you in this area with the team fight. We saw you around here. You had an opportunity to ward here, ward here, ward here, or ward here. And you've just gone back now to this position, and their heroes are all alive now. 2 of your heroes are dead. Now how are you going to get out there and put those observers out? So you also have to capitalize on when you are in a good position to place a ward. Remember this tower push up here? Get the ward down, because you don't know when it's going to be safe to go there again. all right? Same thing right here. You were already in position for a good observer. You lost that timing, and now you're on the back foot over here by your tower. Okay, so yes, the Aeon Disc saved you, but again, you could have gotten out with the Force Staff. It's cheaper than the Aeon Disc, and it doesn't have the drawback of the cooldown going up every time it's used. The Chain Frost, again, wasn't used that well. I do think you would really benefit from having the Shard. So if your team, and you know what, it's highly likely that pretty much no one is ever going to Tormentor in this bracket, get your own Shard. So this way you can do those solo kills, or even if it's not a solo kill, in the team fight, you could draw your Ice Spire, put it on the ground, and then Chain Frost, and at least guarantee that more damage comes out from your ability. I could point out a few more things. Again, Frost Shield on the towers, blows up the creep waves. Use your Frost Blast as well on the creep wave. There's no reason not to. There's little things about that, about your skill usage, but that's not exactly the main issue with how you're playing support. It's an issue with how you're playing Lich, but not an issue or the primary issue with how you're playing the support position. Solar Crest is a fine item for sure. I don't mind you getting that. You've recognized that Luna can do a lot of these team fights. Buffing her up with it is great. This pipe isn't going to do too much for you right now. Yes, it can block the Nyx Assassin, but they have overwhelming physical damage at this point with the Troll and the Medusa. It's not like you're going to be an ideal Crimson builder either. So still you can get that Force Staff, or still you can get that Ewel's for managing some of their heroes in the team fight or keeping your heroes out of harm's reach. Okay, so you've distanced yourself from Luna. Luna is, I don't know if it's evident to you while you're in the game, but she's been your best core. She's also the strongest core. You have to maintain a closer proximity with her. You have to be able to help her out. At this point, who cares about Spirit Breaker? Kind of who cares about Lone Druid? If you can save him, obviously you want to, but you've got to focus on Luna. She's going to win you the game. If you help her stay alive, she will win you the game. You're over here, you're floating on the side, you're not using your abilities. You're not using your Solar Crest on the Spirit Breaker. Frost Blast again. You have it up. Good. I think now you can see a lot of the potential of having your Shard, of being able to draw the Ice Spire and have your Chain Frost bouncing between heroes and the Ice Spire. So incorporate buying your own Shard into your build. Ooh, they're feeding. Their respawns are very staggered. They can have a good fight with Troll, Nyx, and Ringmaster, but this team comp with a Bear and a Luna should be able to take their base. So let's see how you guys do this here. Good that you guys are at least going to get 2 lanes. Good that you have a little bit of Nyx protection. This is a ridiculous move. I'm glad he called it off. Now, do you go for more? Well, unfortunately, their tier 2 over here is still up, but two lanes of Rax is amazing. You have a couple of jobs you could do on the map. One thing that you could do, obviously, is just staying with your team, setting a trap around a sentry and trying to get the Nyx as he follows you out. You have this that you want to take over at some point. This is probably out of the question since Pudge and Nyx are up, but if you do kill one of those 2 heroes or both, then you can take this as your team moves up the bottom lane. I mean, if you kill a lot of heroes, you can even just end the game. All right, so you're not watching your sentry. You guys aren't actually setting a trap. I definitely would have pinged it. I definitely would have made a play over here. Try to get people to just fight 5v4. You have a lot of abilities up right now. No Medusa. You got to take that. That's not on you. I'm saying that's just a fault of everybody on your team. Even here, I'm not sure why people are so scared. There's no Medusa. Okay, you get your ulti off. It's doing some good bounces. Yeah, look at that. You guys are just crushing them. Now, you're not mindful of where Luna is, and Lone Druid, unfortunately, just really overestimated his hero against the bot-back Troll Warlord. And now Luna without you, I don't like her chances too much, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. Okay, so just silly. You know, that's not a fault of yours. That's a fault of pretty much everybody. I don't even know what she's thinking buying back now. Everyone's just kind of losing their mind with this fight right here. Now you're getting the shard. I think it's nice that you're getting this, but you see how effective it would have been if you had it earlier. Good. Frost armor on the tower. Mind your positioning. Your job, again, is to keep Luna alive. Stay behind her. Don't go in front of her. Good. You got her out of there. You are in a bad position, but... that's unlucky. You played everything except for your positioning correctly there. You did get the frost armor off on the tower. You did get Luna out of there with the Sinister Gaze, but you ended up being in a bad position where you died, and Luna, she ended up walking back into the Ringmaster ultimate. Now she has a dieback, and you guys are going to lose the game. Okay, so we have seen enough of your early game, we've seen enough of your mid game, and we've seen enough of how you take your fights. The build is a reflection of how you think of the game and what you kind of misunderstand about Lich. You definitely have far more power at your disposal than you think. So if you get a shard, you can enable this Chain Frost. If you play on the map a little more aggressively, if you know the potency of these spells, if you have some mangoes to keep your mana topped up, you can get more Frost Blasts off. You combine those with more auto attacks because the enemy heroes are so slow. There's a lot of room in your game to improve on playing offensively, on dealing a lot more damage than you currently are. A very close game that, yes, certainly could have gone either way. Both teams had many mistakes on either side. Sometimes you guys capitalized on there, but not often enough. Remember the little trap that I talked about here? Other times they capitalized on your mistakes, like when Spirit Breaker would just charge like a fool, and you guys would have to play 4v5. But the map wasn't entirely closed off. So let's go over the 3 things that I talked about for supports: vision, early aggression, and having patience later, and planning your spells and abilities. Well, let's just take an order of the game and summarize. In the laning phase, like I talked about, you ran out of mana too early and you didn't have enough blood grenades. So mangoes and blood grenades, particularly on a hero like Lich, and particularly on this double ranged versus double melee lane, you could have applied a lot more aggression and come out with a couple more kills, especially with Spirit Breaker helping you guys out. Later on in the mid game, that's when you got a little too timid with your warding and you didn't provide your team enough of anything. It wasn't just the vision. It was also the lack of map control to maybe make them feel like they could farm their half of the map, and you never stacked. You had this Luna and also a couple heroes who could take the Ancients, but Luna in particular, who was playing this very AFK farming type of game. And look, she stayed on top of the net worth the whole time. So kudos to her for that. You could have enabled her. You could have gotten her there even faster. If you did some stacks over here, you did some stacks over here. And you definitely had the time for it because you were spending a lot of time wandering around in this area and also spending some time around your tier 2 and mid. Finally, with your item build, I think the main thing to remember is just that this shard could have come online a lot earlier. You know, let me take us to the scoreboard actually, because it is very interesting that when I saw the scoreboard and I saw their heroes, and even at the beginning of the game when I was assessing what heroes they had and how you would be playing against them, I said Force Staff, I said Yule's Scepter, I said you played fairly well. Maybe there were other ways that you could have kept your teammates alive because they have 15 deaths over here, 15 deaths over here. Actually, having watched your replay though, it was really the fact that you just didn't capitalize on the potency of your spells. So going aggressive with that early shard, it could have been your second item, it could have been your third item. And that goes back to how you play. You have to play just as if you're a little more confident, as if you actually can make more stuff happen instead of being so reactionary. If you are going to be a reactionary player, you got to be playing perfectly. It really is so much easier to be the aggressor and to get the first chain frost off, or to, quickly put the frost shield on the bear when it goes in, and so that a little bit later on in the fight, the frost shield comes off cooldown, and then you can slap it on the bristleback. So just try to incorporate a little bit more aggression in your play and be more confident in what you can do. These heroes and the way that they were moving around was not actually as scary as they appeared. But it's not just about Lich. You can do similar things on all kinds of support heroes. You want to play Leshrac, you want to play Jakiro, the same thing. Blood Grenade, keeping your spells going constantly, trying to make use of the fact that you're a ranged hero versus a melee hero. Anyways, at this point, I'm starting to repeat myself a little bit. Hopefully the lesson made some good sense to you, and please let me know your feedback having listened to this and watched it. Let me know if anything makes sense to you or is still confusing. For everybody else watching, same thing. You can leave your comments in the comments section. And also a big thank you for sending me this replay and letting me look at it. I appreciate that. Hopefully it was a good lesson for everybody. Thanks again, everyone. See you next time.